Om Shanti. A very warm welcome to
brother. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. A very warm welcome to our dear, respected Danny Bhai. Om Shanti Bhai ji. Savi, we can all wave with a flower to welcome our special angel Bhai ji.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Om
Shanti.
Om Shanti.
We'll all welcome our dear angel, Brother Danny.
We're glad that you have come to share your life with us as we grow in
Om Shanti. Welcome, Bhaji.
we always speak to what God would have us be. A family always there to be strong and true. May we learn to love each other more in each new day. May words of love be on our lips in everything
सुनोगे
we
फिर मैं
say.
ये हटाती हूँ
May the Spirit melt our hearts and teach us how to pray, that we might be a true family. Welcome to the family. We're glad that you have.
It's a real great fortune. Oh, you're back.
Sorry.
It's a real. Oh, Sister Lakshmi is also here. Welcome, Sister Lakshmi.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Saurabh Bhai, for doing all these programs. And also, I don't know if you, Brother Dan remembers us from Michigan. You spent some time with us a while ago. And
Yeah, I
we
remember
were-
playing the Lakshmi pin.
Yes. And also I saw you many times in Madhuban. And also, anyway, welcome. It's just
Thank you,
awesome to
thank you.
see you once again. Welcome.
Very
Thank
sweet.
you.
Thank you so much.
Let's have fun and see where my blind spots are, because I think I'm full of them right now. Thank you,
Oh
Bhai.
dear.
Thank you.
Brother Danny, thank you so much, Sister Lakshmi. Brother Danny is a special angel. We call him Brother Danny in English and Brother Dani in Hindi. Because he really truly lives that life. You know, उनकी ऐसी धारणा है जो बाबा ने आज कहा भी, और बाबा said today, गुणदान, महादान. So we also call him Brother Mahadani. Mahadani. And we can see from his face, it just reflects that purity and love from Baba. All the way from Australia. I think Australia is where the sunrise happens, pretty much the first, in the first few hours. So that's where Brother Danny, he gets up very early. I am so inspired by Brother Danny. He gets up at 2 a.m. every day to meditate. And Brother Danny sleeps by 8:30 p.m. जैसे सूरज भाई हैं मधुबन में, भंडारा बाबा का संभालते हैं. Suraj Bhai, just like that, Brother Danny manages Baul Baba's Bhandara in Australia, the Sydney Retreat Center. Brother Danny is a lawyer by profession, so we couldn't feel that Brother Danny can be a lawyer, very soft-spoken, very gentle. But Brother Danny has a lot of accolades. He's also like a white ambassador, which is in Australia a very big thing. In Australia, he spent time in Melbourne. So he was a White Ribbon Ambassador, a male-led campaign for the elimination of violence against women. Uske alawa, he has graduated with LLB, BA, BCom, originally from New Zealand, then moved to Australia. He was a lawyer in Australian Supreme Court in Victoria, and then worked for 7 years in one of the largest community legal center in Melbourne. And right now he lives with Brother Charlie in Sydney. So we are really very honored that Brother Danny has given us this time. Brother Danny ने हमें ये समय दिया है, and we are looking forward to this, Brother Danny. And beautiful topic Brother Danny chose for today is how to uncover our blind spots. पुरुषार्थ में कैसे हम कोई भी चीजें हमें जो रोकती हैं उसको हम दूर करें. So before we begin, we would just like to everyone to unmute and just say welcome again, and then we can start the session.
Welcome, Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Om
Shanti.
Om Shanti. Welcome.
Om Shanti. Beautiful.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Om
Very
Shanti.
sweet.
Om Shanti.
Thank you so
Om
much for the.
That's right. Danny.
Thank you so much for the sweet welcomes and the very touching welcome song with the flowers. They're so sweet of all of you. I think maybe this is Saurabhai's influence as well. He should really be in a sister's body. He's such a sweet brother. He's has that type of gentle, soft nature. So I feel like I would like to meet everyone, but you're 41 and then it wouldn't work properly with Zoom and all of that. But I'm sure we have met before, some of us, when I was there with Saurabhai in USA. So, special love and Om Shanti, and lovely to be with you again. And it's my good luck and fortune to have the chance to share some of Baba's knowledge with you. And hopefully Baba gives you something that you feel is useful for your journey. And I'm quite happy if people unmute and stop me if there's something which catches your interest, or where you would like some clarification or some expansion. Please, if that works from Saurabh's point of view, it's really quite okay from my point of view in terms of sharing with you. It's nice to have some interaction as well, and maybe if you have a question or a clarification, there might be 5 other people in the group who would like to have the same thought clarified, so you can do for everyone's benefit. The topic, blind spots, I think it should come with a small disclaimer actually, which is that, I don't want anyone to have their self-esteem reduced through discussion today, because sometimes, we think about all the things like that we can't see inside, and then we can feel like, oh gosh, I really still have, this thing and that thing. And so I really hope that it doesn't feel like that when we share together. It's for me, a very rich topic. Because we check inside as we go through, and we get insight into ourselves through that. In the same way that, like, when you have tomorrow's Murli, and some of you may have already heard the Avyak Murli for tomorrow. Gosh, it's like a mirror. The level of purity that Baba is inspiring us to reach is incredible, right? So these things are all just wonderful self-checking opportunities for us to lift ourselves up and improve our spiritual self-respect. So if everyone doesn't have any preliminary questions, I was going to do a screen share and put a PowerPoint presentation on to give a bit of structure and a sense of direction for our conversation. So is that okay, Saurabhai, if I start with that? Cool. I think there might be a facility you need to re-engage on your side, sort of way. Cool. So hopefully you're getting a nice screen share now of blind spots as we go through it. I'm happy to take like a PDF of this as well and just send it to Saurabai afterwards as well. If it's in people's minds that there's something that they want and they don't want to take notes, they prefer to just listen, then please, you're welcome to do that. And Saurabai, if there's any technical issue, please stop me as well, because while I'm seeing this, I don't have the same visibility. So I'm only seeing this in my own face. So you need to stop me. So for you, it's tonight. For me, it's the morning. Actually, the sun rises in New Zealand before Australia by a couple of hours. But yeah, the sun comes up here nice and early. It's just after 11 a.m. here. So if it's cool, as I was sharing earlier, when we listen to these types of things, it's like, you know, on the one hand, we listen to words. On the other hand, it's like the third eye is also internally active. We're looking inside and self-checking and looking for those little aha moments where we get something interesting for ourselves. And if we pause a few times for meditation during the talk, just to have some silence and to refocus ourselves, that would be really nice. So that's sort of my plan. So for the litigious American audience, there's this little slogan, you know, suing each other, our blind spots like you have on the back of a truck. I think the sign is from the back of a truck. You know, what we can't see can lead to an accident. And what we can't see in ourselves can hurt us. So there's some good benefit in uncovering our blind spots. It's also quite connected to this idea, which is quite popular, even more popular outside the BKs. It's the law of attraction, you know, that karmically we draw into our lives the things which we need. But the mechanism for that is outside of our conscious awareness, right? It's like to do with our vibrations, that things come into our life. So sometimes we don't realize how that test was pulled by us until afterwards. You know, at the time, it's a test. And the nature of a test paper is that it pushes you to your limit. Otherwise, how do you graduate to the next stage in development in your own raising of your consciousness? So the test has to push you to the maximum. If all your tests were easy, then, you know, these talks wouldn't even be interesting, right? Life would be fantastically easy. But unfortunately, we have subconscious things that we're not consciously aware of that are influencing the trajectory of our life. And so because we're not conscious of them, then it does mean that there'll be discomfort for us. You can call it discomfort, you can call it a bit of sorrow, but I think it's a part of our journey that we travel through that, but that we don't let it stop us, we don't let it make us feel hopeless, we don't let it make us feel unworthy, we don't make ourselves feel like it only happens to us and no one else, that no matter what happens, we move through those things, they're temporary, they'll pass, and we keep on going. So the idea of a blind spot, it's an analogy, right? So actually spiritual things are very intangible. Peace, love, the soul, they're not clearly obvious things. So we use these analogies to physical things to help us understand exactly what's that spiritual thing about. So what I was going to do to help with the persuasion of blind spots now is play a little YouTube video. It's just 5 minutes, but it shows some really lovely optical illusions. It does have some sound backing to it as well, which may or may not be useful, but I'll just hop out of the PowerPoint and play that. Cool, so hopefully you can all see this screen share, and I'll start playing it.
Bhaji, we can see the video, but audio is not audible.
The audio is only instrumental music, so
Oh,
that's
perfect.
okay.
Okay, great, sure.
Yeah, it doesn't actually say anything. It probably makes it slightly more interesting to watch, but yeah. Om Shanti. Are you able to hear me okay again? Great.
Yes.
So the purpose of that little video was really just to, I think, issue a challenge, if you like, to the faith that each of us carries by assumption in our physical sense organs. They are superficial, they are easily deceived. And so if that's just your physical eyes that can be so untrustworthy, there's certainly scope, right, for our social perceptions to be misguided as well. We see things in a certain way, and we have a certain default assumption that we really see things as they are. And we really, really don't, not at all. We have filters on our intellect, filters on our consciousness that structure our perception of events. And these days, there's more and more really interesting psychological research as well. For example, there's research that shows that human beings do not passively absorb their environment, in the sense that it's not that either soul using these organs, I'm just perceiving reality, or I am just an observer. Actually, each of us, our brains are actively constructing our reality, actively constructing a world. And do you know the primary basis upon which we construct our world? I realize that these rhetorical questions aren't as exciting on Zoom because you can't shout out. The main thing that we construct our world based on is we want it to confirm our beliefs and our own hypotheses. Yeah. We build a world that's comfortable for us with our brains, conscious of it or not. It makes us comfortable. And on a deeper level, this is definitely connected to our ego and to our attachments. And being a BK is by no means making us exempt from that. If anything, we're like the core offenders, right? Because we are the souls that have accumulated the maximum amount of baggage over a very long journey. So in that sense, while there's the greatest capacity for absorbing God's purity and love and happiness, there's also a wonderful capacity to kind of perpetuate illusion as well. So I'm just going to bounce back to the PowerPoint presentation, and we'll continue the journey using that. So we played that YouTube. Now I wanted to hop onto a couple of definitions of what a blind spot is, because I think it's good to be really clear about what it is we intend to talk about. And just a reminder that please do unmute or pop a question in some way if you need me to pause or clarify. Or sorry if I start talking too fast for translation, please tell me. So often we talk about our blind spots with driving, right? That area around a vehicle which can't be observed by the driver while they're at the controls of the vehicle. And those of us who drive, even though over there in the US, you'll be looking out the other window. You'll look outside the other window as the driver. Still, you'll know that if you're changing lanes, and in your case, if you're changing into the left lane, you'll usually be taught that you need to look over your left shoulder before you change lanes, because that side mirror actually won't show a vehicle which is immediately beside you, maybe back 1 meter. So commonly people will change lanes into someone because they didn't look over their shoulder, they just relied on their mirrors. So it's their blind spot, right? And in terms of our physical eyes, we also have this blind spot, which is the area on the retina without receptors that respond to light. Therefore, if an image falls on that region, it will not be seen. And the reason there's this part of the retina is because that's where the actual optic nerve from the brain comes into and attaches to the back of the eyeball. So did you know that your brain is constantly constructing false data about your environment? Even now, as you listen to me, there will be two parts of your visual field, and I'll stop the share and put the video back for a second, because it's in the back of back of your eyeball on this side, then slightly on this side, about I'm trying to get it right, about here, there are two areas in your visual field where your brain is actually filling in blank spots. It actually doesn't know what's in your perceptual environment. And the way you can test this, if you don't really believe me, is you get a piece of white paper and you put a black dot on that white paper and you hold it out more and more. You don't look directly at it, you're keeping it in your peripheral vision. And as you keep moving it out, you'll reach a point where that black dot disappears off the piece of paper. And that is the point where the optic nerve is coming into the back of your eyeball. It doesn't have visual content there. So once that black dot is within that sphere of blindness, your brain is so good that it fills in the gap. And because it uses the surrounding visual data to fill in the gap, which is the white paper, it whites out the black dot. Actually, we all are always carrying around those two black dots, if you like, in our visual field, and our brain is constantly filling in the holes. It's a physical hole in the back of your eyeball required for your machinery to work, and your brain is always filling it in. Some of you may have known that. If you want more information about how to do that test, just Google it up, and you can do it to yourself at home or do it on friends. The main thing is that you don't focus your eyes directly on that piece of paper, but it's just to the side, and you'll reach that point where you've taken it out and the black dot disappears. So this is our physical blind spot in the eyes. So we also have this blind spot in our inner world. So the way each being's self-existence in the sphere they are in, or the sphere they're observing, distorts their perception, often of themselves, but also of others and circumstances. Basically, you're the one who's in your story, right? I am separate from your story. I am a creature of my story. I carry that story around me. It's like, it's in my aura, it's in my being. It's who I believe I am, who I'm conditioned to believe I am. But because of that, I don't see myself as other people see me. And actually, the way other people see me may have many things in common that I don't see. And if my sphere of being also includes things like being sensitive and not wanting to hear feedback from other people, then I may never even find out how other people are perceiving me. Yeah, because one of the main ways that we learn to identify our own blind spots is our company. Other people give us a mirror, right? They give us little hints. Sometimes it's just the way their face might wince, the way I say something. I thought I said something in such a loving way, and from their expression, I can see that it wasn't taken that way. And then I can check myself. Was that me, or was it something in them? Because they will also have blind spots. So sometimes it can be a thing to try and work out which is which in terms of, was it their thing or my thing? So seeing ourselves on CCTV or on camera can also be an eye-opener for us, because we're used to being in here looking out. We're not used to actually having a visual on ourselves, how we present, how we speak. And really, I think many old souls don't like it either, right? Oh, I don't want to have my photo taken. I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to, see that. I don't want to participate in that, because there's something that makes us feel uncomfortable, because it's who we actually are. You know what I mean? But we don't want that. It's exposing. I feel vulnerable or I feel uncomfortable with it. And I'm also very guilty of this as well. I've never really been a fan of cameras, but actually I can see why it's connected to my own body consciousness. And in a more spiritual sort of definition, or a more spiritual example, when someone has a chip on their shoulder, it's a very common expression where, you know, maybe something's happened in their life and everyone knows that, you know, John, Jimmy, whatever this person, John Doe, they're carrying around that block or that prejudice. For whatever reason, they've had an experience in their life that, you know, maybe it's had been a bad experience with authority. So John Doe doesn't like authority figures, or John Doe doesn't like the police. There's an inherent mistrust of them because that negative experience has sort of impacted their being. And so then they're carrying that with them. So that can shape us in that way. But it becomes a blind spot because sometimes the person will know about it, but often as not, the person doesn't know about it. So in my inner world, my inner space, it's about learning my limits so that I can try and improve myself. And it's also about learning and accepting the limits of others. Another thing with blind spots is that actually it's not about having, you know, too much realization of other people as well. It's more about self-realization. You know, sometimes one of our blind spots, to be honest, is that we tend to be so much focused on others. You know, like in Bhaktadas Murli, he'll often talk about whether we're caught up in parchintan and pardarshan, looking at others and thinking about others. And you know, this whole blind spots talk, discussion could end up in that category of waste if that's how I use it. You know, it's not just like, yeah, that's what's wrong with Saurabh, that's why Saurabh annoys me. Sorry to use you as the example, Saurabh. That, you know, I have those realizations that it's someone else's problem. Actually, the idea is to try and get past that and to say, you know, this is so interesting. I didn't think about that or see that in myself. I can look at that more, I could change. So some common blind spots. And most of the blind spots, I find they tend to be interconnected. You know, we have 1, 2, they kind of are like friends of each other. In the same way that the virtues are friends of each other, they're interconnected. So the vices in these blind spots can be like different facets of a diamond. So one blind spot, just to push this earlier point home, is the belief that I don't have one. Really, I don't. If we were fully self-realized karmatic beings, then we would have no blind spots. But we're not. They're intrinsic in our journey down into body consciousness over 63 births. We accumulate many layers or levels of inner blindness, and we're on a journey of progressively opening the third eye, because actually that's where the blindness of the blind spots are. You know, it's this spot here that's become blind. It can't see itself as a pure soul. Now the second blind spot that we're going to talk about is when someone has learned to believe that showing ignorance is a weakness rather than a part of our learning. And so it's this idea, sometimes we say, at least in Australia and New Zealand, someone's a know-it-all. So whatever you tell them, they already know. Sometimes you might be trying to explain something to someone, and before you can even finish your sentence, it's like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I already know. And then you can get that feeling like they actually aren't even going to listen to me, because they've got a little piece of programming that they already know everything. And it's quite damaging for the relationship, because, you know, you'll feel you yourself might feel not listened to, not heard, and that other person isn't actually taking on board what you're saying, because inside they're holding a belief that blocks their ability to actually receive new information and knowledge. And I had a colleague at work like that who I was meant to try and train, and whenever I tried to explain different aspects of our job to him, not every time, but many times, he would be like, yeah, oh no, yep, no, I know it. But the reason I was actually telling him is because, for example, we had been interviewing a client and he had given some wrong advice. And so I'm saying it for that reason, that actually he doesn't know it. But it was clear to me that somewhere he had picked up in his journey that it's like a self-protection mechanism. Because we often train people that if you admit that you don't know something, it's like a sign of weakness. People will think you're stupid. So we have this thing to pretend that we know things when we don't. It's really quite common. So, yeah. I'm just trying to read my next point. So maybe they're repeating themselves because I haven't listened in a way that makes them feel understood. Then the third blind spot, and this is one of the former Australian prime ministers who, it's a facial expression that's intended to match the sentiment of that statement, which is, I am right. And don't you think if I was wrong, I would know about it? So I'm sure you're aware that that sense of being right is a form of our arrogance, our ego. And we need to separate the arrogance from the external circumstances. The reason I'm saying that is because often the reason we become blind about this is because we'll be like, but I am right. I'm right. That's the actual external fact of the matter, is that I was right. So why shouldn't I say that I'm right? Yes, you may, what you've stated may be correct, but what is the vibe behind the way you've expressed it? Did you really feel the need to let everyone know that you were right? Oh, did you? Yeah. Were you trying to prove it as well? Coming away from a conversation with someone, did you sort of hop straight on the computer and have to Google something up and then send it to everyone who was part of that conversation to let them know that you had been misunderstood and that actually you were right? Am I forceful with my ideas? Because people who have the ego of being right can't harmonize with the ideas of others. They will push hard on their ideas. And of course, if you have a genuinely held belief that you're right, then you would push hard on your ideas because everyone else is wrong. So, you should make them aware of that. But it can very easily just be a display of our own ego, and it breaks relationships really badly. Because if someone is like always right, it becomes a little bit pointless to engage or communicate that much with them because they're in a fixed position all the time. And they're sort of wrapped themselves in that cloak of their arrogance of always being right. And another sign of this is if I beat myself up, if I get something innocently wrong, because I feel the need to always be right. And so then if I am not right and it's shown that I'm not right, then inside I might really, oh, you're so stupid. How could you do that? Oh, you got this, it's like the other side of the same coin of that ego. On the one hand, I'm pushing too much of my own views. On the other hand, I'm flogging myself if I get something wrong, because that's my perception that being wrong is really bad. That, oh yeah, no, I should never be wrong. But actually, it's fine to also be wrong and admit that we've made mistakes. Here's the benefit in denying that I've made mistakes, except that I'll lose the opportunity to learn. And I don't want to lose the opportunity to learn. Saurabh, I just wanted to ask a question. I'm just wondering if it would be useful for me to try and put the PowerPoint side by side with the video, or if I should just keep going and doing what I'm doing. Are you able to give
Yeah,
some feedback?
that would be good, Bhaiji. Yeah.
Because I was just thinking, from your guys' perspective, it could get boring, right? In the sense that there's just
No, we're enjoying it, Bhaiji. It's
sorry. I should say, like, yeah, it could be
Yeah.
more exciting if there was
Yeah.
an expression running next to it. And I can see myself, I'm gesturing and moving my hands, but I'm my own audience.
Yeah.
Saurabh,
Yeah.
do you know how I would achieve that technologically to make them run next to each other?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Bhaiji. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay.
Because even I feel sometimes like if we are sharing screen, then we can't see everyone. Yeah.
Sorry for the break and flow.
No. Perfect.
But I just thought I'll have a look. Anyway, it
Yeah.
might not be possible due to the technological skills of people involved. Sorry for.
Yeah. No. Sorry. We'll suggest this in the next Zoom, so they will update it.
Yeah. Well, you and me can learn, or you can teach me how to do
Sure.
it for a future occasion.
Yeah, even I'll need to learn. So, yeah. But thank you.
Cool. Okay. So after the I am right scenario, another favorite is blame game. So it's your fault, and warning, you're in my blind spot. So blaming others or situations may seem like a reasonable assessment of the facts, but it's also the number one way to disempower myself. We know that Baptara teaches us that actually the ultimate state of pure human consciousness is a state of blamelessness. I don't blame myself either, and blame others. And the reason for that is because I've really owned all my own blind spots. I've owned all my own stuff, and I've owned my journey. Because blame becomes very quickly a jail that we imprison ourselves in spiritually. I put myself in that jail because I don't want to believe in my own power. I don't want to take back my inherent purity and goodness and greatness. And I want to make other people responsible for the way I feel about life and what's happened in my life. It's extremely powerful consciousness to have, because we live in a world where people are addicted to being victims. And if I have even little traces of consciousness of feeling like I'm a victim, then blame is absolutely going to be there, and having a sense in which other people are at fault. They are like total companions. And likewise, if I'm blaming, or if I feel others are at fault, it's like a huge flag for me that somewhere inside there's a little part of my psyche, my inner world, which feels like I'm the victim, because that's why that expression comes out from that. I'm the victim, therefore I blame, and others are at fault. And in some ways, we have these little compartments within our own psychology. We may overcome one thing and empower ourselves, but then as we go along our journey, something else comes up where we've created beliefs and attitudes that we're a victim. And we'll have all the reasons to justify why it's not possible for me to change or influence my circumstances, or change or influence the other person. But if it's possible as a first step to detach from that and not reach a conclusion of, no, it's not possible. But what about the position of, let me just not make that judgment. Maybe it's possible, maybe it's not, but let me not automatically go into being stuck. Because when I'm convinced that it's something or someone else's fault, I really get stuck in that. And the only way to re-empower myself is to find some deeper spiritual understanding, some point of knowledge that unlocks me from that jail. And for me, most of these points of knowledge are connected to the law of karma, because the law of karma really teaches us that do not assess or judge things based on how they appear, based on your current conditioned intellect. There is a sequence of past actions from me which have created my current reality. And it's my current actions which will free me from that. It's not anyone else that's going to free me. And actually, one of the favorite body consciousnesses of the BK family is thinking that God's responsible to free us. Even he's not responsible to free you from your karmic stickiness and your karmic messes. He shines the light, he shows the path, but the legs to walk it are yours, not his. And there's different murlis where he makes this so clear to us, because we really like to play games with Baba, don't we? I know, because I play those games too. I'm your brother. I'm with you in that game with Baba. But I remember one Aviat Murli where Bapdada said that he was talking about watching us struggle and make effort. And in that Murli, Bapdada was saying that Bapdada is watching the children struggle and labor, and Bapdada is feeling that, the children are struggling, and Baba wants to help the children with their struggle and their effort. And I was really feeling when I was listening to that Murli, like, oh wow, Baba wants to help me. That's great. I also want to be helped. Someone should help me because it's hard. I'm finding it difficult. And then he said this horrible thing, which was a very good thing. He said, but Bapdada understands that the one who sows the seed gets the fruit. And it was such a, I'm sure all of you carry these beautiful moments in your journey where something has just like an arrow. And so that was one of my big arrows in my Brahmin life, where I had to stop bugging Baba to save me, to free me, do everything for me, because that is one of the deep bhakti beliefs about God. Actually, it's one thing that many people don't like about BK Gyan, because they want a God who will save them so that they can stay a victim, so that they can stay in the blame game, so that they can stay miserable and helpless. But what kind of a God would do that? He loves us, he wants to uplift us, and we want him to lie to us because it keeps us comfortable. Wow. Yeah, if you want to hold that view, that's fine. But you'll stay stuck there as well. We even have to overcome our false beliefs about Baba, our blind spots about Baba. And, we know in the Murli, one of Baba's great lines is, only a handful know me as I am, how I am. The reason for that is our blind spots. Our blind spots also don't allow us to perceive as he is what he is, because we carry so many different things inside of us from our journey of so many births. So blame and focusing on the past leads to like a self-paralysis. The nature of blame and fault is, you can imagine, it's always looking behind me, looking back at the past. Whereas the nature of responsibility is it's forward focused. It's always going to the future. Whatever's happened in the past, I have to let it go and open up my future. And the transition from blame to responsibility is the way to unlock or break out of this blind spot. Because I'm still owning it, but I don't own it through blame. I own it through a sense of responsibility. And it's that knowledge of karma that because of my past action, I have created this. Therefore, it's my responsibility now to change it. I don't need to know that, because I did this act or that act, that's why I've ended up in this situation. I just need to understand that there's an underlying principle that works here. Whatever the actions are, it's actually not relevant and probably even unhelpful to know the detail. But that's the mechanism for me to get out. I am responsible for my own personal transformation now. I have received the knowledge from God, and also I have the ability to take power from Him to lift myself up. Now, are you ready for your number 5th blind spot? Next one. Oh, and Saurabh, what's our time limit?
Eternity.
Wow, that probably means that we'll just see when everyone starts to leave the call. Okay. There were 9 blind spots anyway, so I'll break that suspense for you all. I just thought if it was 12 o'clock, I'm not doing that well for time. So, communication. And so much misunderstanding happens with communication due to blind spots. And here I've written assumption is like the mother of many of these mistakes. For example, we think our communication was really effective. And I've caught myself doing this quite a few times. I said something to you, and therefore you should know what I'm talking about, right? And but just because I said something doesn't mean you were present and attentive with me. It doesn't mean there's not a language barrier. It doesn't mean that we're on the same page about something. Actually, there's so many reasons why the communication in the sense of the information being conveyed may not have happened, even though I said it. And one thing which is even slightly more challenging than that is sometimes we can catch ourselves doing, I think, therefore you should do, or I think, therefore you should know about what I've thought, as if people are supposed to have read my mind in communication. It's like where someone tries to update you about something or share something, and they give you one little snippet of information about a whole big story. Because they've got the whole big story, they think that one snippet of information will somehow fill you in. And all it does is it raises about 10 questions for you as to, what are they talking about? Why is this happening? What? Where did that come from? What does that relate to? And requires a lot more clarification. But it's amazing how these little blind spots in communication can really cause friction in relationships, especially once we're trying to do service together. Because on the service field, that's where we really learn about each other, right? The way we communicate, the way we try and deliver on an objective together. We try and, we're trying to achieve something together, which is a service outcome. And how we go about that is really a different type of relationship within the BK family. When we're just brother and sister, it's easy, right? Everyone's like happy, friendly. Yeah, they're my brother, I love them. My sister, I love them. But then once we start doing service together, it's like, hey, I thought this was supposed to happen and they did this. Or, hey, that person had a little bit of ego. I can't believe that they've got some ego, whatever. But actually, it's by working together that we get much deeper insight about ourselves and also about each other. Honestly, if we didn't do service together and have to interact for that way, no one would reach their karmatit stage. It is the primary basis for moving forward, those insights and those mirrors. The tendency of old souls to want to sannyas away from others. Do you all relate to that one? It's so common, right? That the solution to all my problems is to avoid other people, because other people are a mirror. And so to avoid having to actually take responsibility for my own stuff or to work on my own stuff, I just keep away from the mirror, which is the BK family. So, one of the main vices I think we all know is ego. And one of the primary mechanisms of ego, or the primary principles is divided they fall. You know, united we stand as one family. There's the power of the gathering. Baba tells us that. So ego's primary weapon is divide them up, you know, isolate them off. Ego is an inherently isolating vice. Whenever anyone is isolating themselves, generally, ego has caught hold of them somehow. There is something that's disturbing. I can't stand this person's behavior. How can they be like that? I'm not going to ever interact with them again. I'm going to keep away from this person. Why? You know, why? It's our own feelings actually towards others are being controlled by someone else's behavior. But I am the soul. I am the master of my feelings. I create my feelings. I'm here emanating feelings constantly, radiating my vibrations. So I'm letting other people control my vibrations and my feelings. But why? That's a choice, actually. I'm choosing where I focus my attention. Generally, what we tend to do is we have yoga on someone's defect. We draw that defect into ourselves. It makes us uncomfortable, and then we pump out bad feelings. Actually, if my yoga had fallen on their virtue or their speciality, I would have kept creating sweet and beautiful feelings. Now, it doesn't mean I don't notice mistakes and things that are going wrong. I do. But I have the wisdom not to let my intellect get stuck on something. I know for myself, and see how you feel, but there's that critical moment where something happens. I go to something with my mind, and if I pull back at that moment, I can save myself and I remember Baba. But if I go into it, it's like you just start to open it up, and it's like the snowball, the avalanche of waste, and you know, I nailed myself. But it's because I focused on that defect, I drew it inside, and then I started to create thoughts based on that, connected to that. One of my favorite things, which I'm still doing, which I'm trying to stop, is, you know, I'm just going to keep picking on Saurabh. Let me just, if I tell Saurabh what the problem is, you know, he doesn't see this, it's his blind spot, so I'll tell him, you know, because that will really help Saurabh. If he just knows what this is, he'll hear from me, then he'll be like, oh, you know, that's really helpful, Dan, thank you so much for saying. You know, I keep doing it, but I find it really doesn't work. So I'm going to have to, you know, come up with a better strategy for managing relationships for myself. It's very rare, like, that feedback works, and it probably is best if it's invited from the other person, because if they're not feeling strong enough to have some mirror from me or some comment, then I might just end up hurting them. You know, so if I just hurt them with my feedback, they'll feel worse about themselves, you know. And if I'm really spiritually mature, I should be able to choose my timing as well, because the timing shouldn't be such that it's like a knee-jerk reaction that, you know, I can't sort of wait for the appropriate moment to share privately in confidence when they feel comfortable, but I'm reacting based on my feelings. So my feedback is actually being given because of my own need, my need to give them feedback, not their need to transform or be helped by me. You know, like a decision is happening in my own thoughts. So communication and being an active and self-aware listener even while speaking. So when I am interacting with others, their faces give me so much information. The number of times that I thought that I was communicating in a certain way or giving certain feelings, and from someone's expression, I picked up that there was something else that they were receiving. It's so helpful, because then we can check, or we can ask them, what was going on for you, what happened, etc. So number 6, the blind spot of being a lawyer for the self and a judge for others. Now, we very easily become a lawyer for ourselves and a judge for others, and I the ideal scenario is that it's the other way around. Otherwise, it's like a double standard. So what I mean by this is that the lawyer is the one who gives the sympathetic case, right? They put together all the points which support you. So, you know, for myself, I've got all my excuses. Oh yeah, I didn't wake up for Amrit Vela this morning, or whatever you want to think of it to be. So like, oh yeah, but it was a really late night. You were so tired. You know, you've had a really big week, and you know, at least you eventually woke up at like and still made it from early, or this is whatever you can think of a scenario yourself. For ourselves, very sympathetic. And then the next day we're sitting in Murley, and I don't know, if for some reason you know that someone who's come hasn't woken up for Amrit Vela, and you're like, oh my God, you know, they didn't wake up, they didn't do this. Now, Amrit Vela may be a fairly boring example. You may be able to think of much better examples. Someone's late for work, you know, so we're like completely intolerant. How could they be late? But ourselves, the next day we're 5 minutes late. Oh yeah, but the traffic, this, that, you know, so many explanations we'll give for ourselves. But the second someone else does it, it's like the harsh judge comes in. And so trying to have it the other way around, that actually for others, we make charitable assumptions about what's going on in their life. I like this expression, charitable or generous assumptions, because, you know, either way, there's an underlying assumption being made. We don't really know what's happened, but we're reaching a conclusion ourselves without the full information. So if we're going to reach the conclusion without full information, then be generous or kind in the background assumptions we're making. Oh yeah, there's probably a good reason why this happened that way. I should check the person, or I don't even need to check with them. I'm just going to assume that there's a good reason for it because I have faith and trust and confidence in this person, or something like that. So we judge others by their behavior and the outcomes, and yet we expect that they should judge us by our intentions. Yeah. So that is another way of expressing the same blind spot. So you could say it's when that lack of mercy or a bit of harshness. Now, blind spot number 7, that victims will victimize others. And it's a little bit connected to the it's your fault, the blame game blind spot. But it's also interesting. And, you know, because I did work a lot in domestic violence and that type of law prior to moving to Sydney, it's actually statistically proven that those who consider themselves to be victims will be the perpetrators of the future. For example, those who were abused physically as children are much more likely to physically abuse their own children. And same with different crimes and abuses, whether it's sexual, physical, rape, etc. And even in the workplace, bullies, people who feel bullied in some area of their life are much more likely to bully others. So interesting, hey, it's another reason to really motivate ourselves not to get caught in the victim game, because actually the other side of that victim coin is there'll be a part of our psyche which wants to sort of hold power over someone else and squeeze someone else. In the BK family context, one aspect of this blind spot that I often I'll sometimes see here and there is that, you know, when people get a little bit of authority or responsibility, and, you know, at first as part of our journey to becoming mature, when we have some responsibility in Baba's Yagya, we can feel like I'm the boss, I'm in charge, you know? And so I carry my authority in a slightly body conscious way, because it takes time. And I'm personally still on my journey of learning to consider myself to be an instrument, very much. So we have to also be compassionate with each other in this one, because if I feel I'm the boss, there will also be another part of me which feels disempowered, which is why when I get that authority anxiety, I jump onto feeling like I have to hold power over others, and then that little control freak thing kicks in that you get a little bit in different parts of the BK family as well. And then there's some people who do have that control freak thing, but it comes as their own sort of oversensitivity as well, that they want so much freedom to do anything and everything that if anyone even asks them to communicate or to cooperate with others or to try and coordinate service activities so that we can get a better outcome, they will feel like, oh, how can that person try and control me? How dare they shouldn't control me. Actually, they might not be wanting to control you at all. It actually could be quite a reasonable request that, you know, we present ourselves as a group of people who are actually organized and talk to each other so that we know what each other's doing. You know, if two people are doing, I don't know, 2 courses at the same time in the same area or whatever, that type of thing, we do communicate and interact and work with each other. So there's both sides of this one as well. Some people can be controlling and have to work through that until they become more humble. But then also students and other people need to be open to the fact that sometimes people aren't trying to control them, they're just trying to create better communication and better organization, better coordination. And inner power is power over myself. And the more I feel in control of my thoughts, my intellect, my physical sense organs, the less I will need to try and compensate for it by controlling other people, controlling the drama, controlling Baba. You know, a direct relationship between our own blind spot of feeling disempowered and our need to try and make up for it by feeling powerful somewhere else in our life. But that sense of feeling powerful is generally driven by our ego rather than some deeper spiritual truth. Number 8, labels and prejudice. I feel like checking in just to make sure everyone's going okay, but I don't know, Saurabh, is there any way to sort of check in? Because, you know, otherwise the Dan monologue is a bit, you know.
No, Zarur Bhaiji. It's beautiful. I am really enjoying. It's very insightful. सभी कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे अनम्यूट करके?
Very nice, Dan, brother. Really like it. I really like it's eye-opening.
Yeah.
Some
Thank you.
things that we overlook every day, but now we can realize that, you know, sometimes it's not what we think. It's our wrong perception that someone may understand if I am talking, or I should, what the way I am thinking and others should understand. No, that can be easily miscommunicated, and that is not clear to them, so we cannot be assuming anyone. So I really thank you for this eye-opening lesson. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Lovely insights. When I knew about the blind spots.
मनोज भाई आपका माइक भी अनम्यूट करना होगा शायद.
Yes, Brother Dan, you are, you know, we are all concentrated. Whatever you are saying, therefore nobody's speaking. Everybody's in tune, listening to you.
Very sweet. Okay. Thank you, brother. And Sunita Ben, you were also sharing.
Yeah, it's just saying that thank you very much. Lovely topic. Knew the blind spots of the eye, but didn't realize that how many blind spots we have in the inner self, you know. Thank you so much. Lots of points to think over and ponder. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you've all reassured me that it's tracking okay, huh? I think I just needed some reassurance. then I'll do the last couple of blind spots with you in the concluding points. So labels and prejudice, and conscious or not, we often tag people and treat them according to the tag rather than according to what presents. And actually, there was a game that we played at one youth program in Oman, and that game is where you get like a group of 10 people, and this was like a retreat for 60 or 70 people, so just 10 random volunteers offered themselves, and the scenario is that those 10 people are having a meeting, planning meeting together, and each of them has to wear a hat, and on the front of the hat there's a label which they can't see, but everyone else in the meeting can see it, and they have to conduct the meeting on the basis that the label on each person's hat is true. So they have to assume that the label is true, and the label is negative. So things like, don't trust this person, and whenever this person speaks, laugh, they're an idiot, and this person is so disorganized. So all different, 8 different uncomplimentary labels on their hats, and then they have their meeting. So you just fake some topic that they maybe have to plan a BK service event if it's a BK retreat, and have their discussion, but assuming those labels are true. And it's quite a vibey meeting, you would say. It means that the atmosphere between the participants, if you play it sincerely, isn't that nice, because they're looking at each other, and this person, whatever they say, no one trusts or wants to believe them. So that person starts to feel like, oh, what's written on my head? And someone else, when they try and make a serious point to try and progress something, people just start laughing at them. And someone else just feels like, they're not feeling understood or respected. And, you just let that run for 10 minutes, 15 minutes as an activity. And then at the end of it, you go around and ask each person, did they have any clue actually what was written on their hat? And it's also very interesting that really the majority of people do have quite a good clue as to what is written on their hat. Because just from the vibes and the way people interact with them, they feel it, that people aren't trusting me. Why aren't they trusting me, etc. And if we think about people in our lives, there may be people that we've tagged a certain way, and we interact with them with a certain reservation because we're always holding them under that label. And sometimes those labels are actually the entire basis of a karmic account, why there's friction in a certain relationship, because I'm holding that label on them. So how can there be a really loving and good connection? It will be uncomfortable. And sometimes it may also be based on experience that I've had with that person, which makes it a bit more challenging. Well, sometimes they may have had an experience of me where I made a mistake, or they perceive that I've done something that wasn't right. But as soon as we start holding that in our consciousness and bringing it into our feelings and our interaction with people, it can create a karmic account. And then we have to find a way to actually try and lift that out of our consciousness, because holding on to it, that becomes like a prejudice in our mind towards people, and definitely they feel it. Sometimes we think that no one knows about it, but it's not true. People feel our vibes, especially as souls who are leading a pure yogi life, because the sound of our vibration gets louder than even our words. As we go on this path, I find that the sound of our vibe only gets up and up and up, stronger and stronger, and people pick it up. They feel that very loudly. So something for all of us to check. And then in that activity, the same meeting is undertaken where people put on a hat which says something really nice about everyone. This person's really organized. This person has a high level of energy and can do a lot, give them lots of things to do. This person is very trustworthy. They could be like the treasurer or whatever, those sorts of things. And then the same group of people with a whole different 8 hats interact with each other. And the atmosphere and the vibration in that fake meeting is completely different, completely different. Because again, the basic rule is you have to act as if the label is true. So you honor the title that they're given on their hat, and it creates the atmosphere and the energy between people. So in essence, everyone wants to be treated with respect. And if people feel loved and respected, then really it creates harmony in relationships. And I wanted to make the point that it's actually not inherently bad to hold those labels to people. You know, sometimes, especially logically, you know, if you say that someone's prejudiced, it's like it's a negative thing, right? Oh, no, I'm not a prejudiced person. Whereas sometimes in the course and different programs here with the public, I try and stir people up, get them thinking by saying, actually, what we want to teach you in the Brahma Kumaris, we want to teach you how to become the most prejudiced person in the whole world, the most prejudiced person, because it's the same faculty or function of the intellect to hold a label. It doesn't have to be a negative label. Actually, our soul conscious labels are also labels. So, you know, I want to prejudge everyone as a peaceful soul, as a loving being, as a child of God. So I want to use that faculty of prejudice, but I'm loading my intellect with the knowledge that Baba is giving and projecting that onto others. In a sense, either way, human beings, we're just projecting machines, right? We're just pumping out projection. We're overlaying our story on everything around us constantly and pretending that we're perceiving reality, but actually we're just painting our reality on everything around us. So knowing that, I really want to paint a beautiful reality. Why wouldn't I make it a beautiful world and project my own beauty, my own purity onto the world? When Avyakt Bapdada incarnates in Diamond Hall, what does he do? First, he gives drishti, and how uplifting the vibrations of Avyakt Bapdada's drishti. What's he seeing in us? And in every Avyakt Murali, how does he start? Today, Bapdada is seeing. Bapdada is looking at the future world emperors, the Mahadanis, the world benefactors, you know. Always he's just like decorating us with the vibrations of his own titles. Yeah, he has those in his heart, those pure attributes, and he radiates that out as vibrations and spreads it, paints it across us, and we absorb that purity from him, those vibrations from him, and take on board the way he's looking at us. That, oh wow, this is how someone looks at me with so much love, such an elevated vision on me. So actually even Bapdada is also in that sense projecting in that he knows the faculties of consciousness and how to uplift us, to spread that energy onto us. So come, you know, maybe, I'm not sure if it's bad to say it, but just for fun, you know, maybe Bapdada is the most prejudiced person of all, right? He's absolutely fixed in his worldview, you know? Because he's truth. He's the one being who never changes. He's completely immune to feedback. You can try and tell him something, but how can you give feedback? Anyway, that's just for fun. The last blind spot that I was going to mention is lack of spiritual intoxication. I'm not sure, this is just something that been thinking a little bit about, and it will come up in Baptada's Sunday Murli tomorrow or tonight for those who read it. You know, many of the ways that Baba tries to intoxicate us, they're I statements like, I'm the luckiest soul in the world. You know, do I feel the vibrations of my own good luck and good fortune? Or if I try and create statements like that and hold pure thoughts like that, does the ego of comparison come and put a shadow across that? Oh no, I'm not the luckiest person. Saurabh is luckier than me. You know, because in Saurabh's life, this happened and that happened. Or I'm unlucky because I came to Baba only 10 years ago and someone else came 20 years ago. Or someone else is luckier than me because they've got more wealth and a bigger house. So as soon as comparison kicks in, I'll lose my spiritual intoxication. And some of these I statements like, I am the luckiest, I am the wealthiest, you know, because Baba will often tell us to, you are the richest in the world, because it's the spiritual wealth that he gives us. But our tendency not to be able to stand in a sense of uniqueness, that I'm one of a kind, so I can be the luckiest. Because when I just look at my own good luck and my own fortune and appreciate the things that I have in my life, I'll feel like I'm the luckiest. It's my feeling. It's not about like a mathematical equation that, oh yes, let me take a survey sample of, you know, 500 human beings and look at everyone's circumstances and am I really the luckiest one? Or, you know, objectively assessed, would you say that person B is luckier than me? And, you know, this is the body conscious thinking that spoils our spiritual life, that we're programmed in with the Lokic world. We have to come out of that, a deep vibrational attitude that I must always compare and measure myself against others. In this aspect of spiritual intoxication, we must never measure ourselves against others. We must just accumulate and hold in our own heart the things that we feel so grateful for. I am the luckiest soul in the world. I've found God. I've recognized that Bapdada has come. I'm able to lead the life that he's given me. I'm able to create my eternal fortune with my body, mind, wealth, thoughts in this service. I'm part of the group that is transforming the whole world. You know, how lucky are we? But, you know, the comparison will immediately, it's like a deflation. It will pop that and the pleasure will suck out of my life. And it's an aspect of our old body conscious ego that is coming in there and spoiling that. So that was the last blind spot. And then I was just going to share a little bit about how we get so deceived. Because, okay, you know, what's the mechanism that allows these blind spots to keep operating so that I'm like under their influence? And at least in me, the observations I've made, it's my own intellect and my own feelings that are the root cause of my betrayal. That's where I'm deceiving myself. And I was thinking, it's like as if Baba's knowledge exists in like one compartment of my brain, but I've partitioned off or put my feelings somewhere separate from that. It's like it's a bit theoretical. Intellectually, I've accepted what Baba is saying, but I'm keeping it separate. And those like aha moments, the drops of self-realization, where we get some insight as to some of those yuktis at work, how those 1001 little yuktis that we use to try and keep ourselves from realizing what's going on work. And some examples of how we do this is, for example, ego. I've seen in myself that, you know, I hold on to different false senses of self-worth because for some reason, we know the reason, body consciousness, the intellect can't always discriminate my own feelings inside. So I really believe that this position, this role, this external thing what makes me valuable. So if that is threatened, then my ego kicks in. I think I'm going to lose my value. That, oh no, if I don't work anymore, if I don't have that position anymore, if I don't get promoted in my company, if I lose my status, then that's going to, disturb me. I'm going to be worth less as a person. But it's the feelings inside, and the intellect genuinely latches onto ego and thinks it's self-respect. And we may even sort of hold our head high because of that, but it's not really the self-respect that Baba is giving us. We're just holding on to something old because that's what used to be our self-respect. For 63 births, we were holding on to all these fake bits of role and responsibility. Connected to this is the way also we think role and jobs are is connected to your worth or your value. For example, someone might be doing like a very simple or menial task, even though they're we perceive them as something more elevated than that. And so we feel, they're very humble because they're doing, such humble work. But we're still in that paradigm, right, of judging people based on the external thing that they're doing. The external thing was never defining them. It's still the ego paradigm that if I think the external thing defines someone, that's still in my body conscious illusion. And with anger, we might hold on to feelings of anger because we think it's a sense of courage and confidence, basically because we might scare people, in the sense that we, okay, I'm going to assert myself about this particular situation and stand up for it. And it's just me being assertive, but everyone else around me feels like really strong vibrations of anger. And I may not see it until, like I was saying earlier, that I see their facial expressions and I'm like, oh, well, if I if I express my self-respect and my confidence and people look kind of hurt or scared, which is speaking from experience, something I've done, I check myself. I'm like, oh, something's not quite right here. I thought it was such a good thing, but people are responding in such a way. So how can it be so? And another one, attachment. I find that our discrimination inside, many of us genuinely confuse love and attachment. We think we're so loving and we're just massively attached. The nature of soul conscious love is it's quite indiscriminate, actually. The nature of attachment is it's really love for particular people, only some people. And I'm very specific that other people I don't love as well. And that's not soul consciousness and it's not love. It's like just my Lockett family is cherished and loved by me, but I don't have that much love for the BK family or for the people at work or whatever other souls are there. My discrimination is primarily connected to attachment. And another flag for me for this is sometimes I notice in myself that, I want that person to know that I love them. Or I feel like it's my goodness that I give someone a sense of belonging to me. But actually, I should be instrument for Baba's love, right? And I want other people to belong to God, that they should have the same luck and fortune that I have. So this has just been for me in the last couple of months. I've been really thinking more, am I just pulling someone towards myself, or am I really trying to connect them to Baba vibrationally? Because that's my aim, right? I don't want just to get in the way of Baba's task. I want that other people feel his love, not my love. And another thing, which is something very deep, is lust and the way we get impressed. I think that I'm so good at being positive and seeing all the good things and people around me. But is it coming from just the fact that I very easily get impressed with everyone and then rave on about, oh, this person's so wonderful and this is so great. And, because really, at least for me, this being impressed is something that's been coming up again and again. it's really a tendency of my lust and body consciousness to get impressed. We may become, celibate in our life in a physical way, but becoming celibate in terms of not being impressed and appreciating that everyone's being decorated with Bhaktada's specialities and virtues, so I don't get drawn and stuck to people. That is something that really is, I think I'm going to be learning about that over the next couple of years, because it keeps on coming up again and again for me, and I haven't properly understood it yet. So, but really interesting, hey? The intellect lets it through the gate because it can't quite work out what the difference is. And only as I go on and keep practicing will I start to learn more about that. So those are some reasons why I feel that we end up getting caught in our blind spots, is the way our feelings and our intellect can betray us or mislead us. Well, Saurabh Bhaiji, that is the end of the things that I had planned to discuss. I can see that it's really a bit longer than was meant to be. So
this was beautiful, Brother Danny. I really was feeling, Baba says in the Murli, how Maya deceives you. And sometimes we just take it very lightly. We don't understand. But the kind of depths that you have taken us tonight, it really allows us to understand very subtly how Maya can work and how Maya can, trap the intellect so that we get disconnected from Baba and can caught up in, silly little things. It's so beautiful. We really, really appreciate all your, efforts in putting this together. And we will definitely like to also discuss in our conversations, maybe after you send us your these beautiful notes. And I really, really thank you from the bottom of our hearts to have taken this time out to really share this beautiful experiences and insights with us. I would like to open up to everyone. Please feel free to share with Bhaiji. Please, everyone, feel free to unmute your microphone and share. Don't know if Sister Lakshmi is also with us here. Lakshmi Ben, if you can get your blessings, if you're here, that would be also great.
Thank you, Saurabh Bhai.
I
Thank you,
can
Brother
see
Dan.
Lakshmi Ben.
Om Shanti
Om
Bhaiya.
Shanti, Lakshmi Ben.
When I was listening to you, I realized I'm so blinded by my own ego. Now I need to learn how to be blinded by Baba's love. Because to me, that's the clarity you have given me. Thank you so much. I always enjoy the youth when they come up with this very innovative way of sharing knowledge with older people like me. I'm talking about not in a gyan, but I'm talking about the physically elderly. So thank you so much. And I truly appreciate your time. Well spent. Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Thank
so
you.
humble, Lakshmi Ben. Thank you.
That I don't know, but that's one of my blind spots. Thank you,
No
Bhaiya.
way.
Thank you.
Lakshmi Ben is an angel of motherly and that feeling and love for all of us. Thank you so much, Sister Lakshmi.
Thank you, Lakshmi Ben.
I want to say I really like the point that about prejudging someone. So I really like the point that we can be prejudged. We can actually do that. I like the point, not inherently bad to label someone, so we can label them in a very good way, like he's a peaceful soul, he's a loving soul, that person is just a pure soul. So if we do that kind of labeling, that will actually benefit us, and we will see them as a pure reflection of Baba. I like that point. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Om Shanti. Thank you, brother. Putting this all together is a big effort, and lot of all are beautiful points. I feel like number one is the biggest one. Thinking that I don't have any. So if we feel that I don't have any, our journey will stop there. So there is no further going. So I feel like this is the biggest one. And all are put together. And then I really felt that this title is beautiful, blind spots, so that we are now we are becoming aware of our own blind spot, and we'll try to find out, check and change. So Baba says always check and change, right? And other biggest one, I really felt this is the one, it's your fault, the blaming game, where the law of karma, usually we really need to know. And when we blame, we disempower ourselves. We have to take the responsibility. And you also mentioned like focusing on past leads to paralysis. So thank you, brother. All points are good. So I wrote everything down so that it tattoo on my brain. Yeah.
Brain tattoo. Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you
Christine.
so much. Thank you so much, brother.
Om Shanti, brother. It is very nice. The one thing I got is very deeply went into my mind is um, judging others. We are easy to judge others. That is the point I took. I need to judge myself, not judging others. It's really nice. Every point is very important. Every point is to take time to digest. And I had a question in the slide 6. I couldn't able to say that, but the slide 6, the bottom point, can you explain more in depth?
Yeah, by 6, you
Yeah,
mean like as
6
in
is the
the
second point.
I'll just pop out and go back to
The 6th one, you were telling one by one in the 6th one.
is that where we judge others by their behavior and outcomes, and you'd expect them to judge us by our intentions?
Yeah.
So it's like one of the ways that we make excuses for ourselves is like because internally we've got good intentions for it, or there's some particular reason why we couldn't do something, that we're laboring under something. We know our inner world, so we know our intentions. But for other people, we might not seek to inquire about what their circumstances or intentions were. We just look straight to their behavior. For example, they were late, they didn't arrive on time. That's the outcome we're not happy with. And then we don't look behind that and like, what's the reason for that? What's the intention behind it? You know, they may have had very good intentions. There might be very good reasons why they weren't able to deliver something. Because often as a group, you know, there are many different shared outcomes that we want to reach in terms of how we feel we should behave or what we consider to be appropriate. And when people don't act according to those, we can sometimes be very quick to sweep in and just judge that rather than first asking for more information about it. I think the very famous example is that Stephen Covey, people often quote this example where a man was on a train and his 2 children were running riot and were being so naughty on the train. And other people on the train were feeling very upset with them, and the father looked very despondent and he wasn't doing anything to control the children. And after 10 minutes of people being frustrated, someone finally went up to the father and said, aren't you going to do something to control your children, or to try and they're disturbing all the other passengers on the train? And the father looks up at that person and just says, I think they don't know how to cope with their mother having just passed away this afternoon. And immediately the paradigm shifts for the other passengers and that person who's made that inquiry, because they're seeing, in a certain superficial way, they're just judging it based on what their expectations are, what outcomes or behaviors they expect in another, without inquiring as to what the deeper reason behind it is, that there could be something behind it. Does that clarify it for you?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Cool. No worries. Thank you.
Very nice. Any other thoughts? You were getting beautiful everyone's thoughts also from the notes. Everyone is appreciating. Very, very happy. Any other thoughts anyone would like to share? Bhaiji?
Om Shanti Bhaiji. It was a wonderful session to help us turn the torch towards self and do introspection, so that like we all have some or the other blind spot, which we, even though we know, we don't accept it. That is the situation. So it was wonderful session to help us to turn the torch towards self and ponder on it and take care. So self-check and change. Thank you for that. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Archana Ben.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Oh, hi, Dave. Oh my God. Hi, Dave.
Wow.
So good to
What a
see you.
cutie.
What do you guys say, Dave?
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Dave.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Excuse me.
Brother Dan, it was a very, sometime, we run into one of those hours that we never expected in this 24-hour period. And we run into that 1 hour, 1.5 hour or so, whatever, that, brings a lot of things to your yourself, and what you have done today, it's enlightening, for me and Meena, the number 6, we need to become judge ourselves before we say something, and put ourselves in their position before we assume something. So it was very good, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Beautiful.
Yeah, it was really nice. We really learned a lot of things, by the communication and all the different topics you slide that. It was really great and really helped us. Thank you so much, Dan and Saurabh.
Thank you, Meena Ben.
Dan Bhai, do you remember Meena Ben? We were talking about her last time when we were talking on phone. So we had
in that house.
Yes.
In Indianapolis.
Yes. Them, the couple, Manoj Bhai, Meena Ben.
Yeah, I remember you. It was very nice to seeing you and sharing your, knowledge towards this. It's really helped us to grow also, Thank you so much.
Thank you for your hospitality back in 2015, I think. Yeah.
You're welcome. You always are welcome here. You always have a home here.
Thank you.
It's Baba's home.
Very nice. Any other inspirations?
भाई, आज की जो पॉइंट्स थे, मतलब किसी को भी अपना जिंदगी को अपने आप को खुश रखने के लिए, शांतिपूर्ण जीने के लिए बहुत जरूरी है और बहुत आवश्यक है समय के हिसाब से। इसमें से अगर हम 1 या 2 पॉइंट भी अपने लाइफ में यूज कर लेते हैं तो हमारी लाइफ बहुत खुशी और सुखमय बीतेगी। बहुत बहुत थैंक्स डैन भाई और सौरभ भाई। और डैन भाई, जब भी आप मधुबन आएंगे तो यहाँ पर आपके लिए एक और घर है बाबा का, आप जरूर आएंगे। ओम शांति।
So Naresh Bhai was saying that how that everything that you share is so relevant and so important for Purusharth and to have a very peaceful mind. And he's also inviting you have another home in Madhuban where they live. So anytime you go there, please do spend time with them. They'll be very happy.
Thank you, Bhaiya.
Naresh Bhai is my Lokik dad. You've met him. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember your parents.
Saurabh, I have just one question. Like, can we have those slides forwarded to our
Yeah,
team, if possible?
yeah, no problem. Happy to. If I just send Saurabh by to you, I'm assuming you can distribute. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll definitely share with everyone, and I'll also share with Sister Lakshmi so that she can share with the Michigan family as well.
Cool. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Sister.
Hello. Thank you, Saurabh Bhai, and thank you,
Thank you.
Bhaiji, for the nice presentation. It was really nice seeing all those slides. Very nice insight about our blind spots. I forgot the name of the French philosopher. I don't know what his name was. He said that your eyes will only see what your mind sees, right? So in order to probably delete all those blind spots of our eyes, probably we'll have to broaden our intellect and our insight in our mind. Hopefully that will help clearing all those blind sides, right? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Very nice. Thank you.
Om Shanti. Very nice. आपका स्पीच बहुत अच्छा लगा. ब्लाइंड स्पॉट ये टॉपिक बहुत ही अट्रैक्टिव था और सभी को बहुत एनलाइट किया. काफी इजी फील हो रहा है. बहुत छोटी छोटी पर अटेंशन दिलाया. So very nice भैया. Thank you very much. और एक बार आप जब मधुबन आएंगे तो मोस्ट वेलकम. हम सब लोग एक साथ मिलेंगे और कहीं घूमने भी आएंगे. तो स्वागत है आपका भैया. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Saurabh bhai.
Thank you, Bhagwan bhai. Thank you.
आज जो अनकवरिंग ऑफ ब्लाइंड स्पॉट्स के बारे में बहुत सारे जो जानकारी मिला, उसमें एक तो लायर फॉर सेल्फ एंड जज फॉर अदर्स, ये चीज बहुत अच्छा लगा. और बिगेस्ट ब्लाइंड स्पॉट्स के बारे में जो एक्सप्लेन हुआ, जैसे कि भाई साहब ने किए, वो बहुत इनर स्पेस के बारे में भी बताए. वो सब हमारा अंदर में रहते हुए, जानते हुए भी हम लोग उसको ना देख पाते, ना समझ पाते थे. तो उसके अनसीन मैटर को हम जब रियलाइज इसके बारे में आज समझा और अच्छा लगा, बहुत अच्छा लगा. और मैं कुछ शायर बोलूं जी? बोलूं?
हाँ,
अच्छा,
जरूर बोलिए. बोलिए भगवान भाई जी.
तो हिंदी में बोलता हूँ. तो पहले जानो मैं आत्मा हूँ, अजर अमर अविनाशी. पहले जानो मैं आत्मा हूँ, अजर अमर अविनाशी. यह शरीर तो रथ है मेरा, पंच तत्वों का बना विनाशी. यह शरीर तो रथ है मेरा, पंच तत्वों का बना विनाशी. दिव्य जन्म लेते हैं परमात्मा, दिव्य कर्तव्य है करते हैं, दिव्य कर्तव्य ही करते हैं. दिव्य रूप अविनाशी चेतन परम धाम में रहते हैं. दिव्य रूप अविनाशी चेतन परम धाम में रहते हैं. ओम शांति भैया.
Om Shanti.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you, भाई जी.
और एक बोलूं? थोड़ा सा. तो बाबा कहते हैं मीठे बच्चे बोलो प्रेम की बोली. बाबा कहते हैं मीठे बच्चे बोलो प्रेम की बोली. याद करो तुम मुझे निरंतर जलाओ. याद करो तुम मुझे निरंतर जलाओ विक्रम की होली. याद करो तुम मुझे निरंतर जलाओ विक्रम की होली. ओम शांति भैया. थैंक यू.
Very nice. और ब्रदर डैनी हमें खिलाएंगे बहुत अच्छी टोली. Brother Danny, so Bhaiji was really appreciating your session, and he was in a poetic way. He was sharing, how he really enjoyed, and how Baba's gyan, about being a soul, and that you will feed us very nice story.
Om Shanti. Thank you very much, brother. It was a lovely session, very thought-provoking, checking the self. And I liked all the points that you covered that will give us an insight and checking our own. I think if we start, instead of looking at others, seeing the self, judging the self, correcting the self, I think that will help us to move forward. Wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Om Shanti. Thanks, Sunita.
Om Shanti.
Thank you. Very nice. Any other inspirations? Brother Danny, you said you will show us the bhog, right? The Sunday bhog. They just had a very beautiful morning class in Australia, in Sydney. And Brother Danny is going to feed us with Baba's bhog.
The bhog is very far from where I am.
Oh, okay, no problem. No problem, Maji. No problem. So you have to come
So
again
sorry.
to feed us. You have to feed us bhog.
Yeah, but Baba will remind us in tomorrow's Murli that if we're really happy and in love with Baba, dal and roti every day. He said we would experience dal and roti to be like 36 varieties of food in tomorrow's Murli.
Excellent, Maji.
It's all about our inner state.
Inner state, yeah.
And sorry, just one last word also. Thank you, Saurabhai, for arranging such a book.
Hey, thank you all. Thank you to Baba, and especially Bhaiji is taking this time out. It's like
We really appreciate that. Yeah, it's taking such a lot of time for us, preparing such a wonderful session.
But I agree with you, Sunita Ben. Special thanks from everyone to Saurabhai for
oh no, thanks to you,
bringing us together.
Thanks to Baba,
being
and thanks
Baba's
to you.
instrument.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. I have personally learned, I must say, I've personally learned so much from Brother Dan. I've known Brother Dan for like almost 12, 13 years since I've been to the youth meetings in IYF in Madhuban. And Brother Danny is someone who can, whenever I see him, I observe him deeply because I learn something from him every time. He's very humble, very polite. The way he interacts with everyone, he gives respect to everyone. And clearly, the blind spots that he shared, he's really done that, that kind of a subtle level of work to really become that image that can, attract everyone, give Baba's vibrations to everyone. So,
Yeah, it was
really,
reflected in his session also.
yeah. So let us all unmute our mic and then say thank you to our dear Bhaiji.
Om Shanti.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Om Shanti.
Om
Thank
Shanti
you.
भैया।
brother.
Thank you.
तो आपने बहुत अंतर मन को जगाया, अंतर मन को छू लिया। तो कहते हैं परमात्मा और अंतरात्मा, परमात्मा के यहाँ सारा खेल। तो कहते हैं परमात्मा और अंतरात्मा, परमात्मा के यहाँ सारा खेल भाव का है, अंतर मन का है, भाषा का है ही नहीं। तो आप परमात्मा से क्या कहते हैं, कैसे कहते हैं, किन शब्दों में कहते हैं, इस चिंता में न पड़े। परमात्मा का संबंध आपके प्यार से है, आपकी भावनाओं से है। वह केवल आपका प्यार देखते हैं और सब कुछ उड़ेल देते हैं। चुपचाप मौन में बैठ जाएं, पूरी तरह से डूब जाएं। जैसे ही डूबे समझिए कि काम बन गया। परमात्मा आया। किसी ने क्या खूब लिखा है कि तू कर ले हिसाब अपने हिसाब से, तू कर ले हिसाब अपने हिसाब से, लेकिन ऊपर वाला लेगा हिसाब अपने हिसाब से। ऊपर वाला लेगा हिसाब अपने हिसाब से। जिंदगी से हम कितने सही और कितने गलत हैं,
जिंदगी में हम कितने सही और कितने गलत हैं, ये सिर्फ 2 शख्स ही जानते हैं। कौन? परमात्मा और हमारी अंतरात्मा। थैंक यू ऑल ऑफ यू।
Very nice.
So thank you so much, Bhai Ji, and please convey our regards and remembrances to all Baba's family there, Brother Charlie and all the divine family from Australia.
Yeah, lots of
We just feel so
love to say
blessed,
from
you know, all the
Indianapolis.
way from Australia. Bhai Ji is joining us. It's amazing.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you so
you,
much.
Shanti.
Meet you all face to face in Madhuban sometime.
Yeah. Do you remember Pushika Ben also? You went to Pushika Ben's place and we had a session in the evening and you had come. Pushika Ben, aap agar hai to, yeah, she also turned on her camera. So we had Brother Danny came, and I believe it was 2014 Thanksgiving time, and we had a beautiful tour. He came to Indiana, then we went to Ohio, Shubhra Ben's place, and we went to Michigan at the center there. And we had a lovely time. 2014. IG was visiting US at that time.